All right, now we are getting into the early republic with our history. And so, what I wanted to do was kind of give you an overview as to what the early republic would be about. Now, getting right into it, well, George Washington um, was a commander in chief during the American Revolution. He's also our first president of the United States. A couple of things that he was respected for was the fact that he was honest, he had leadership, and he was toughness. He was a war hero during the American Revolution and was one of the richest men to be president. Now, Washington's economic policies was the fact that he was a Federalist, which means that he supported a strong government. He believed that the national government should help the economy. George Washington created the first national government bank. Now, later when we speak about Alexander Hamilton, you'll notice that there is a similarity between Washington and Hamilton's viewpoints, a very large similarity. So here we have Hamilton who's speaking on the fact that we need a strong national bank, and Jefferson who opposed Hamilton's idea with the fact that we need several small state banks. Now, the Whiskey Rebellion was a rebellion of farmers in Pennsylvania who rebelled against the new tax on whiskey. Washington, as commander in chief, sent troops and crushed the farmers using the army. The Whiskey Rebellion proved that the new government was indeed powerful. Now, the Federal Judiciary Act was a law that designed the federal court system with multiple levels, with the Supreme Court being the highest. So it's broken down from the Supreme to the Court of Appeals, and finally with your district courts. I suggest that you pause this video here and read over the um, differences and similarities between all three. All right, now um, Washington's advice with his farewell address. A couple of things. At this time, Washington felt that the best thing that we could possibly do is stay away from any kind of European event. Um, Always to kind of be neutral term, never to promote, never to back away, but just stay neutral. Not give anyone a reason to fight us and not give the opportunity to fight someone else. So, with that, to stay neutral. He also stated that political parties were bad and that they'll fight each other instead of helping America. He made sure to basically promote the fact that it should be a neutral America, not to have the parties. And as you are seeing here, we have the elephant and the donkey, which is representing two different political parties fighting it out. Now, the cabinet. Washington set up a thing such as the cabinet, which was a group of advisors that would help the president, help Washington. Um, they are all called secretaries. So, for example, the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of Treasury, and so on and so on. Now, Washington's legacy was that he set the example for future presidents. He also created the cabinet, which I just spoke about, and started the tradition of presidents only serving 2 terms. Now we're getting into political parties, which are things that Washington did not want to promote. So, what is a political party? Well, a political party is a group of individuals who work together to win elections, operate the government, and shape people's opinions. The first political parties disagreed about the size of the government, whether it was too big or too small, and whether the economy should be farm based or city based. Federalists, who support big governments, strong governments, who also favor national banks and the fact that the government should help businesses instead of farmers, uh, made out the overall idea for what a Federalist was. They also lived mostly in cities. Alexander Hamilton, John Adams, and John Marshall are all people who are famous Federalists. Your anti-Feds, who believed in a weak government, not a strong, a weak, who also were against the bank, who were also against the fact of having a big government and thought that it should be as small as possible, were those who mainly lived in farms. It would be Thomas Jefferson, who's pictured, James Madison, and James Monroe. Now we're discussing John Adams. Who was John Adams? Well, John Adams was a Federalist who promoted a strong government. He was also the second president of the United States. His policies was that he was a Federalist. He believed the national government should help the economy, and he should also support the national bank, which is a lot like Washington. The XYZ affair. Now, this is a very interesting affair because the French and British were both taking American trading ships. Now, John Adams sent diplomats to speak to the French, but the French disrespected the Americans by refusing to speak to them without a bribe. Necessarily, the French did not think that the Americans were on the same playing field, so to speak, with the French. So, why was John Adams unpopular? He is the second president of the United States. What would make him unpopular? Well, many Americans at this time, due to the XYZ affair, due to all of the stealing of the ships, wanted to go to war with France. They felt that the United States Army, however, was not strong enough, nor the Navy strong enough to prove themselves in a fight with a major power. Due to this, Adams was labeled as a coward. So, what is the Naturalization Act? Well, to naturalize is to become naturalized, become normal to what is around you. It is an increase in the number of years someone had to live in America before being eligible for citizenship from 5 to 14 years. So it's the idea of, well, if an immigrant is someone who comes to America, for them to become a citizen, they have to be able to live there for some time. Well, at the beginning, it was only 5. But with the new Naturalization Act, it turned to 14. So an increase of almost 9 years. Immigrants voted Democrat, Republican. And that picture is a little bit too small, so we'll come down just a little bit. And here we have a much spaced out, but the similarity between each decade and each year is somewhat of a similar situation. So at the beginning, we have what is the pompous immigrants are wrecking our economy with facility. We must erect a wall of brass around the country for the exclusion of Catholics. So in 1780, we were wanting to get rid of the Catholics. In 1850, we wanted to get rid of the Chinese immigrants because they weren't assimilating. And if we let too many of them in, they'd undermine our economy. So there's that negative feed from the idea of these people who are coming into our country. Again, in 1920, the only difference was the fact that it was a Jew, and the Jews were coming in huge numbers. The economy couldn't take it. So it's the spin that it's not necessarily they're bad, it's just we can't afford to have them come into our economy. And now finally, we've gotten to the point where we refuse to take them in. When we come into part 2 of this video, we'll talk about the Alien Act and pick up where we're leaving off. So until next time, please, 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 please join us.